quite a few questions and requests to do a video on extending the Saitek yoke. I don't have a webcam or a camera to do this with at the moment, but I'm going to do it with my phone, and hopefully you guys get the gist of it. Anyway, what you're going to need to do it is a number 1 Phillips, a number 2 Phillips, a pair of needle nose pliers, a tubing cutter, a small round or square file. This one's about a 1/4 inch. You're going to need this after we cut our original Saitek yoke. And last, you will need some 1-inch tubing. It's 25 millimeters, I believe, metric, but here in the South we call it 1 inch. It's just a piece of stainless tubing. I picked up like 3 foot of it at a metal shop for $3. It's nothing fancy. You can use aluminum. I wouldn't, for the simple fact that it's kind of weak, being this thin, aluminum tubing. After I got done with this one, it's probably as strong as it ever was, if not stronger. But we'll get into this. I will show y'all how to do it. Like I said, 1-inch tubing. It's a real thin wall. It is less than 1/16 of an inch, which is 16 gauge. It's a little bit less than that, but stainless tubing will be like that. Steel pipe most of the time will be 1/8 inch, 16/16, but of an inch. But this here, it just works perfect. Just get some real thin wall. Take your micrometer, and when you actually cut one of these pieces off that we're going to throw away, that's what I took with me, and matched up. So anyway, we'll jump into it. I'm going to pause the video as I take stuff apart because I don't really have a camera person. But anyway, we'll get into it. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to do, find something to put your screws in. There's only 3 different size screws in this whole thing. It'll seem very intimidating when you take it apart. It's not. I've watched some videos before I've done it myself, and it looks complicated, but once I got it apart and got it in my hands, it's not as complicated as it seems. So give it a go if you're comfortable with it. If not, don't do it, because I don't want you to do something and then mess it up and then be mad at me. This is only the way I did this, and you do it at your own discretion. So we're going to turn this upside down. I'm not going to go into detail with this, pulling it apart. There's tons of videos on that. So all these screws here, you have to pull out to remove this cover. I suggest, if you've never taken one of these apart, or you're not comfortable just pulling something apart and diving into it, watch a video on it first. Just type in Saitek yoke disassembly. There is quite a few great videos out there on it, but I'm going to go ahead, pause the video, take this apart, and get into the next step. And one more thing, so you don't have to mess with these screws. My screwdriver is magnetic. Leave them in there. This will stay upside down anyway, and you won't have to worry about fiddling with these screws and getting them mixed in or losing one. Just loosen them up, leave them in there, and we'll take this off and set it to the side. Okay, once you have those removed, by the way, what's your number 2? There are 2 smaller number 1 size screws here you're going to remove. Once you have those 2 loosened and all these, this should come off with no resistance. You should just shake it a little bit and it'll come right off. There's nothing underneath that's going to fall out, nothing in here that falls out. So leave it upside down, set it aside in a safe place so you don't lose your screws. Alright, so now that we've got that opened, this is where things get greasy. These things are full of grease. You're going to get it all over you, period. Maybe you won't, but me, I've been a mechanic and a welder and I'm a crane operator and just a little bit of a do everything type of guy, but I'll have it all over my hands and my phone and everything else before this is over with. But you'll notice you have some wires to your potentiometers that go to your board. You won't mess with any of this. This right here, we're going to actually pull all this here apart. This is going to be completely taken apart, but your plastics here, they can slide off, but it's best to leave them on. I guess. I mean, if you want to take them off and line them all back up, I wrap me a piece of tape around it to push them up so they don't come off. This one here is pinned anyway and doesn't come off. Let's turn this around this way so we can get a better look, so we can work this way. But right here you'll see all these are marked for warranty. Obviously it's not under warranty. If it was, I don't care. So if it's over 1 year old, there is no warranty. So do this at your own discretion, as I said. Another thing you'll want to do is the detent in these. If you haven't, it's horrible, that sudden stop. That's these springs here. We're actually going to have to take part of this apart to get the shaft out of here. But I highly suggest you do either the rubber band or the spring mod on this. If you go to Roger Dodger Aviation, he does a great job. I mean, a fantastic job on how to pull this thing apart completely and do your spring mods and stuff. I'm not going into that. All I'm doing is going into how we're extending it and pulling it down, the basics of it. So what I'm fixing to do now is first thing I'm going to do is our return spring here on the side has one number 1 Phillips. I'm going to pull it. This is under tension, so when you take it off, be careful, hold it with pliers and take the screw out. Just be careful so it don't jump off and snap your finger. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. And then also on this other side, we have the arm that goes to the potentiometer with the same screw. Go ahead and remove those two. Alright, now that those are out, I'm ready to pull the shaft. These are number 2s. Yeah, number 2s here. You're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now once you got this loose, the spring loose, you pull those 6 and this whole shaft will lift up. Be careful with your wires. I actually worked with this the whole time with it connected, because it's just soldering, or you can't, it's impossible without messing it up. So leave it connected. Be careful with your wires. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those and I'll be right back. Alright, and as I was taking that last screw out, I was just kind of holding up on this. So once you got them screws out, just grab this and lift up, and there's your yoke. The whole shaft is out. Set it down here and take a look at it. This will be a good view. This right here, you don't have to worry about going nowhere. This is pinned here, and this can't slide off. These can slide off here. These two are the only two that can slide off. The rest of them just stay here. These go together, and like I said, watch the video. You'll see how these work. It's not all that bad. But the next thing we're going to do is there's like 14 screws in the back of the yoke that we have to take out. All right here. So go ahead and take those out, and once I get those out, I will come back and we'll see how this separates. Okay guys, so once you have all those screws out of the back, basically just grab your yoke face and just kind of pull it up towards you, and it should come right off. I'm sorry for my bad camera stuff, but once we get behind here, there'll be a little bit of tape all over the place. Go ahead and take that tape loose, because there is a harness up in here on each side. One's a 10 pin and one is a 8 pin, I believe. But reach in there, there's no no lock or nothing on them. Hang on, I might have to. Alright, they popped out. They were a little bit harder than my last one. But anyway, once you got those popped out, and these loose, there's one in the middle. I forgot that you have to pop loose. Okay, alright, those are loose. Once those are loose, I'll take this and fold it back up out of my way. And then you get into this nightmare looking mess here. That's not actually too bad. First thing we're going to do, all this glue, and you don't really have to take the tape off except for right here, because this whole thing has to come out. But you got to get all the glue off of it. I stripped it completely. It pops up pretty easy with a screwdriver. Just get something in there and pop the glue loose and pull that out and then strip it. I'm going to go ahead and do that on both sides. You can pause the video if you're following along and go ahead and pull these off and strip them down to where you have nothing but your plug and clean wire on all of these. Alright guys, it took me about, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes. I got all this nice and cleaned up. I'm sorry, my lighting probably sucks. But one thing I'm happy about that Saitek done is, for some reason, your LCD panel, they made it 4 or 5 inches too long, 6 inches too long, something, but it's great. Because you do have to cut and solder these once we extend this. So if you're not comfortable cutting and extending these, you got 2 options. Don't do it, or lose the functionality of your buttons on your yoke. Me, preferably, I just probably took me an hour to solder both of these leads. There's 9 on one and 8 on the other. I'll show you how I did it, how I just basically pre-cut all my wires, pre-soldered them, and then just started going through and heat shrinking and soldering wires. Heat shrink solder, heat shrink solder. Or solder heat shrink, however I was saying it. But anyway, this in here is what we're about to get into next, because we need to remove the whole yoke now. And all there is to do that is these 4 screws in this plate here where the wires are ran through. The ones in the back you won't worry with, but we're going to take this plate off. We're going to slide the yoke back. There's a pin that we're going to pull out, and then we'll slide the whole yoke off, leaving just the end of the shaft. So go ahead and take those 4 off, and we'll move on to the next part. Alright, once you got your 4 screws out, you are going to take your plate, slide it all the way down. That'll reveal your pin. that I was talking about. And what we're going to do now is slide this down and push these out of this hole. So take this off and away from these cables. You'll just turn these sideways and push them through the hole. You got to do it with two hands, so I'll pause the video. Alright, I got that off real quick there. And the next thing we're going to do, probably the easiest, is to grab the shaft in the back. Sorry, YouTube went off. Grab the shaft in the back, take your hand and just push this forward until this is back far enough you can pull your pin. So once that's pushed back, pull your pin out. This one's going to be a little hard apparently. You might have to grab a pair of pliers. But they're a little snug in there, but they'll just pull right out with a set of pliers. Once you have that out, put it in your screw bin. And then just take and slide, slide your yoke off. Mind this, be careful of these wires because these are soldered in to your buttons on the back of the yoke, and just be careful you don't break them. You'll be doing this with two hands, but you literally just slide it off. And then take this and put it with your, lay it on top of your lid or your back, just so it's safe and out of the way. Alright, so let me show you guys what we are going to do here now that we have our yoke. I'm sorry this video is so blurry, or it looks that way on my phone anyway. I got some new equipment coming and somebody to help do video editing for all the new videos we're going to be doing in the Cessna home simulator build. But anyway, this is where things are going to get greasy and all that, because you'll be fiddling with it. But what Saitek has done, they've used almost a honeycomb. You can't see it until we take it apart. But they've used almost a honeycomb shaped plastic that is the complete length of this tube. And also, you'll see in here a slot, and this is where these are, I ain't getting my fingers all in it, but if you do, you'll see the pieces that connect for your pitch and your left and right on here. But anyway, so what we're going to do is this has to be cut off. But we're going to save this plastic inside. And that's where the tubing cutter comes in. And this is where things got pretty rough for about 3 hours with me, because I thought, I'll just take my tubing cutter, cut this off, slide this piece off, and put a new piece of tubing in it. Use this existing hole with a couple rivets. I also poured epoxy in it. That's something I didn't mention in the beginning of the video. You need some 5-minute epoxy, and a piece of duct tape or masking tape to hold it together, just for centering purposes. But when I did this, it pinched just like a tubing cutter would do. So it pinched a lip and literally crimped this onto the plastic. I could spin it, but I couldn't pull it off. So that's where this file come in. Now, you could use a saw or whatever you want to cut it, but I was afraid I was going to cut these wires, because these wires run in this channel here. And this channel runs all the way down to the back, and that's where they come out with that plug in the end down there. But what I found out was, after I had cut this, I just took this file. This is like almost a 1/4 inch. That hole there looks like 1/4 inch. It'll go all the way in. So all I did was I took and started filing the inside and turning this outside piece, and I filed that lip down until this slid right off. That and the soldering was the hardest part of this job. What we're going to do next is we're going to take and we're going to mark this back 2 inches. I took my micrometer, you can use tape measure, whatever, you measure 2 inches back and give it a mark. So now that I've got my mark, I'm going to take and put my tubing gutter on it and very carefully start cutting this until I'm all the way through it. Like I said, this was 2 inches, or if you're metric, roughly 51 millimeters, I believe. So 51 millimeters or 2 inches back. Go ahead and take your tubing cutter and get to cutting. So guys, I was really surprised. I used this other tubing cutter I had. I used this old thing first time, and it did a pretty crappy job. But a little rigid, I've dropped it in the floor now, but a little rigid actually done a pretty decent cut. And believe it or not, this just slides right off. Well, it did, but hang on, let me set this down. Yeah, and believe it or not, just like that, it come off without giving me too much of an issue. I'm surprised. So I hope it goes like that for everyone, because that'll just make everything so much easier. That took me about 5 minutes and a lot of round to cut, because it is stainless and it's hard, and stainless is hard to cut. So yeah, just take your time, do it slow. Don't try to get it done real fast or you will cramp it, but take your time like I did, and maybe you'll get lucky and won't have to go up in there and file that. But if you do, now that this is kind of off, you can see what I was talking about. I put the file up in there. I run the file back and forth and turn this on here. But hopefully you don't have to do that, because that was so much easier. And the reason I do that is that leaves this sticking out. The only way to extend this yoke and do it right without basically just welding onto it is this method here that I see. There may be other stuff I've searched, couldn't find anything, and that's actually why I'm doing the video on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm extending mine 6 inches. That's all I need for my home cockpit. So I've already cut my 6-inch piece of pipe, and I'm going to feed the wires through the pipe. I'm going to clean this pipe up first. That is something I did on the other one. Took me some steel wool, cleaned it up real nice, and made it shine so it kind of matched, because you are going to have a small seam right there. On the other one, that's what the black piece of tape's for. But what we're going to do, we're going to feed the wires through this. After we get it cleaned up, we're going to put it on here and actually fill this hole down here with epoxy, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. But first, we're going to get this cleaned up. We're going to mark it and pre-drill it, because the last one I didn't pre-drill. I got excited, put it on there, and then had to take this whole thing out to the shop, set it up in a vise, center punch it, trying to drill stainless. It was a pain. So all you're going to need to do is make 2 holes in this to extend this, and that is pretty much it, other than a couple rivets or a bolt, or might not even have to use it if you put enough epoxy in it, but I don't recommend it. This is a good sturdy hole in here. You'll have plenty of meat once this slides on. And then put a bolt, rivet or something in it. I put a rivet in it because it looked nice. To mark these, it's very simple. You're going to measure from here to here, which is a little less than 2 inches, and you're going to mark it on your tubing. And then from that piece you cut off, you're going to measure from here to here, and you're going to put a mark up here. Now, they do have to be in line, because if they're not straight, if all these holes aren't straight up and down, you will end up, well, I say straight up and down. Technically, they're sideways when it comes out of the simulator, because this is where your yoke was and where your pin went through. But I work with it like this because it's easier. But all the pins are going to be straight up and down or sideways from whatever direction you're working with. So this piece here will get a hole drilled and slid on, and then it'll get riveted along with epoxy in here for strength, and well, just because I wanted to put epoxy in it to make sure it wouldn't break. And then your hole up here you'll drill through, like I said, straight in a line, one here and one at the other end, straight up and down all the way through. And then from there, once you've epoxied this on and set up, you have to cut your plugs, extend them. I extended mine 6-7 inches, something like that, which we'll get more into here in a minute. I'm just wanting to give you all a little heads up of what's going on. But yeah, basically that's how far I'm extending my yoke, which I used a 6-inch piece, but since I cut 2 off, I'm only extending 4 inches. So if you wanted to extend a full 6 inches, you would need a 8-inch piece. But since I'm only doing 4, that's all I need. So we'll drill a hole here and drill a hole over here that matches up with that. So give me a few minutes. I'm going to get the holes lined up and marked, and I'll be back. Alright guys, so I've got my pipe marked out, and I actually got lucky. I think you can see it. There's a seam down it. There's actually a couple seams. But they actually good and straight. So I put my marks on it. For our 2-inch cut over here, we went back 1.7 inches or 45.5 millimeters from here to here. And then on this side, it was 0.2 inches or 6 millimeters exactly. So this is what we're wound up with. Lighting camera, but yeah, so I'm gonna go drill this and then take me a little bit of steel wool and polish it up, and I will be back with you guys in about 10 minutes. Alright guys, so it's been about 10 minutes, and I went out there to my shop and threw this up on the drill press, center punched it, and drilled it. It wasn't that hard. I just used my line to make sure I had it straight and drilled straight through. So I haven't put it on. Let's see if I know what I'm doing. Alright guys, I got it on there. I did have to take my little file and file this down inside. I guess I crimped that side a little too hard when I cut it, but I was dead on. I'm very excited because normally I don't get quite that straight on. Normally I have to use a persuader, like a 3-pound sledge or something, to get things in. But that went in really nice and snug. So I was just using the pin that we took out that's going up here to check it. I'm also going to put something in here temporary so I can go ahead and finish this build and we don't have to wait on this to dry. So give me a few minutes. I'm going to find me a bolt, pin, something to put in here, and I will be back. part out and this if I can, but if not, this is just going to run together, and disregard what I just said about this. We're going to go ahead and change our minds on this. Alright, so once you have it together, use the pen to align and put it together. Use the pen to align it and make sure everything fits right. Once you do that, we're going to stand it up, and I don't know how that stood by itself, but I am going to grab my Mr. Hands, and I'm going to prop this up, and just so it's good and solid and it won't fall over on me. And I'll take a piece of masking tape or electrical tape and wrap around your seam right here. Alright, once you have that taped off and propped up, go ahead and remove this pin. And once you got that pin out, get you some 5-minute epoxy and mix up quite a bit of it. Don't be scared to use it. I mixed up probably a little over a quarter tube on the last one. And what you're going to do, I have no way to turn the light on, but hold your wires off to the side. And if you look down in there with a light, let's see if I can get this on. No, I can't turn my flash on. But just take it and pour a good amount in there, and then stand it up and let it set overnight. So mix up your epoxy, pull your wires out of the way, and just mix it up and pour quite a bit down in there. 5-minute epoxy, 30-minute epoxy, really whatever you want to use to get down in there. But what that's going to do is the tape's going to hold everything good and straight for now. And then when you pour the epoxy down in there, it'll stop about right here, the way this thing's designed. So you'll just basically fill it up, and that honeycomb, along with this and the rivets you put in it, makes it extremely strong out here. I mean, it's incredible how strong that one was. I did put some pressure on it to try and twist it or break it. If I was goofing off and jerked my yoke or something, but it seems pretty doggone strong. I do believe you would have to break the plastic, which it's essentially stronger now with the epoxy in it than what it was from the factory with no epoxy in it. But anyway, after you've let your epoxy set up in there, you've poured it down in there and let it set, and you're sure that it is good and cured, come back and watch this video for the rest. Alright guys, once your epoxy set, go ahead and you can remove your tape down there. And then, like I said, I put some black electrical tape around it just to kind of cover it up. But once you're done with that, go ahead and take a couple rivets or a bolt. I just like the rivets. They look better. I got aluminum rivets out in the shop, so that's what I'm going to use. But yeah, put your rivets in, and then we'll be ready to reassemble. Alright guys, so now that you've got your rivets in, you got your tape or whatever you decide, or just nothing. You don't really have to put nothing. I just put it to cover the seam. It's time to put this mess back together. So dive into it. It's not all that hard. It looks like everything's flopping around and going crazy, but you only have 1, 2, 3 pieces. You know this one goes in the very back. They set together. This kind of works. I wish I'd quit doing that. Works it as like this. So when you pull the yoke, or I'm sorry, when you turn the yoke, one side opens. when you turn the other way, this side opens. Should be pretty easy to get back together. I'm not going into detail with that. If you've made it this far and can't get it back together, I guess message me or something, but I'm not going to do a detailed video on how to put this back together. I will tell you that you probably have this red stuff, that Loctite, that anti-warranty stuff on top. If you do, you know those go up, because if you get one upside down, especially this one, it won't set all the way in there. So go ahead and get that put back together and put your cover on. And like I said, if you want a great mod, check out Roger Dodger Aviation and check out his rubber band and spring mods for these. I did it the other one, and it's really impressive. I like it. It's smooth all the way through. Anyway, get it back together and I will be back in a minute. Alright guys, once everything's bolted back in, you've done your rubber band mod for your pitch or a roll spring mod, potentiometers. I mean, there's tons of mods you can do for this thing, just nothing for extending the yoke. So here it is. Once you're done with that, grab your cover, put it back on, screw it all back together, flip it over, and we'll get ready to put the yoke handle on. Alright guys, case is on, all back together. Next thing to do is flip it over and get ready to put our handle on. One of the reasons I like, since I done the other one, to put it back together and flip it over is I wired this whole thing. I cut my pigtails. I wired it all together and hooked it all up, put all them 14 little screws back in the back of the yoke handle, and I put it on upside down. So put it back together, set it right side up, and get ready to put your handle back on. Alright, so assembly's gonna be the reverse of disassembly, obviously. Take our handle. Hopefully I can do this with one hand without tearing everything up. I'm gonna have to set this down, feed my wires through, and slide this on. 1 second. Alright, wires are through. I hate I have to lay down the camera like that. But next things, slide it on there. Should have a nice snug fit to it, just like it did originally. Hang on, trying to get up close and personal here. And we're through. I had to set the camera down again. I'm sorry. Alright, so once we're back through, we're going to take our pin, and we want the wires, the way this cap here that works, and what that cap actually does is you put that through there, and this cap pinches everything together. Oh goodness, I keep moving around, but yeah, so it goes this way. So you want the wires to be above the pin and not under it. So as you push the pin through, goodness, I wish I quit doing that. I'm sorry, guys. Put your pin through. I'm gonna tap it because I ain't got enough hands to push it. Alright, get it about center ways, and then you're going to pull your yoke back to you, or your yoke handle. You're going to pull it and seat it all the way in this little groove here. Alright, now that our yoke's back in and our pin's seated firmly up against, we're going to take and put our cap back on. This has little things, those go inwards towards the pin, and the hole goes to the top. So go ahead and put that back together, and I'll see you here in a second. Got your cover back on. You have your wires out here. Your short one goes to your LCD display up there, and then these other two plug back in. But the problem is they're now 6 inches too short. I wish I'd quit doing that. I'm sorry, but yeah, so now you need to cut them back about 1.5 or 2 inches on these two only, and extend them 6-7 inches, whatever it takes to make it up here. Once you've cut, extended these, plug them in, flip your controller back over, or your face of your controls, flip it back over, and screw it back together. And once that's back together, guys, you have successfully extended your Saitek yoke. I hope it wasn't hard. It's taken me, I don't know, it's probably 40 minutes of video, maybe an hour. So it's taken me, probably taken me 1.5 hours to do the video and the build. The only thing I did not do was I just snapped this back together. I didn't solder these yet, because it's time consuming. It just really is. I'm not going to do it and then stop this video to show you this and tell you the same thing. So the soldering probably is going to take you, depending on how good and quick you are, 30 minutes to 1.5 hours, honestly, because it's a lot of little wires, and then you run them in there, tape them back down, put your handle on, screw it back together, and you're good to go. I hope this video helped y'all, the ones that wanted to know. I'm sorry I'm not a professional YouTuber. I just had some requests, so thought I'd help you guys out. Anyway, good luck. If you have any questions, you can reach me on Facebook, I guess, if you find this video there. And then if YouTube, probably going to upload it to my channel, which is Preston33565, which will have a new name here shortly, or maybe even one of my other channels. But I don't know. But anyway, good luck. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to help you. Just try and get a hold of me. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Enjoy.